So picking up from last episode. They start this fight so strong, it cracks the entire city. One clash and we already got at least 50 casualties. So after they clash, they wrestle for a little bit until Conquest headbutts him, then drags his ass to the floor. And while he has Mark pinned to the floor, he tells him how right about now Anissa will be telling him to back out the fight and accept the Viltrum Empire, but then Conquest is like,
I'll tell you no such thing.
Showing that this nigga gives no damns about peace. So Conquest grabs him, getting ready to beat on him. That wasn't until Mark flipped the tables and hit him in his... And obviously my boy ate that shit. So Mark lost in, dragging him through 4 different buildings. And you can't tell me there wasn't at least one person in that building. Therefore, Mark don't care about no innocent lives right now. Anyway, somehow Mark takes more damage from that attack, in which Conquest grabs him out the rubble. Mark breaks out with a weak-ass 2-piece combo that actually works somehow, in which Conquest condemns him, talking about some
Very good.
And Mark was tired of the belittling, charging at him, socking him in his shit not once, not twice, but 3 times in the air, then proceeds to push him up, then kneeing him above the clouds, then builds momentum doing a whole loop-de-loop, knocking that nigga into space. And just peep the animation. Oh my god, that looks beautiful. Anyways, Conquest freaky ass blows a blood bubble out his mouth, then forms a heart out of it, proceeding to break it, then charges at Mark all the way back down to earth. But as they're falling down, Mark breaks free with a knee to the gut. And so when they separate, Mark has the bright idea asking him this dumb ass question.
You still sure this is gonna go your way?
Yo, chat, is this real?
So we cut to Debbie watching her son getting beat on, with Oliver telling her that he gotta go help him, in which she don't even hesitate to let him go cause she knows what's up. So while Brody's on his way, we cut back to Mark in absolute anguish, turning over to his side and coughing up a lot of blood. That wasn't until the ground started shaking, and when he turns around and looks up, Oliver sees that from the distance and tries to help his brother, but he just getting knocked around from landmark to landmark. Oliver's chasing after them, but that boy cannot keep up. That wasn't until Mark crash landed through 4 buildings in a gas truck, in which when he looks up, Conquest was on his ass. But then Mark attempts to talk no jutsu. And you want to know how Conquest took it?
Just listen.
Are you crazy?
And so while Conquest got his ass pinned, he lets Mark know that he's not gonna give him no types of chances to surrender. And he's like,
I am having the time of my life here.
Which is when Oliver finally comes in and knocks his ass out, charge again to continue on his attack, and then God damn! Conquest grabs him mid-air before he can even touch the ground, asking the boy for his name cause he's like,
I prefer to know who I'm dismembering.
But before he could do anything, Mark comes in, saving his life. And so Mark and Oliver stand up getting ready to square up, but Mark tells his ass to leave, in which Oliver wasn't listening, so he tosses him over to the side right before Conquest can charge at him. And I don't know why he did that, because he gets dragged through 4 different buildings, then getting dragged through the floor, proceeding to toss his ass 30 feet to the side on top of a car, then charging in, but Mark dodges, flies in, and knocks him on one knee, hitting the Black Lives Matter pose.
Almost there.
And so Mark comes in and starts beating his ass, hitting lick after lick non-stop out of rage. But then towards the end, we start to see that his punches aren't really doing much. So Mark goes in for one last punch and it gets caught. God. Conquest stands up, spits out this small little speck of blood, and lets Mark know that if that's all he got, he's gonna die. And so we cut to the Pentagon with Cecil begging that nigga Sinclair for the reanimation to be done, but
we're at least 2 weeks away from...
Now sliding over to the hospital, Eve wakes up. She looks over to her left and sees that Mark is getting his shit whooped on the news. And so she wastes no time getting right out of her bed and changing into a fit.
You can't even walk yet.
Do I look like I need to walk?
Yeah, talk to him, Eve. That's the spirit. So coming back to the fight, Mark charges in for a punch before he gets caught, tossed over to the side, which I'm assuming it dislocates his shoulder, because listen to this sound. And then proceeds to call him a toy before dragging him into a building. And after finishing dragging him through that one, he said,
I'm not finished.
Busting him through another building, and to my surprise, there were 2 people still in there. And so Conquest hits him with a Gohan grab, slamming his ass on the floor. Hold on, Mark, I'm gonna need you to lock in. Don't give up yet, this fight's not even halfway over. And so Conquest lifts him up by his wrist, questioning why the hell the Viltrumite Empire sent him there, because to Mark's face, he's saying that shit is too easy for him, then proceeds to push him away. Then he stomps my nigga Mark through the streets, crashing him into a bus. Lifts his head up and lets him know that he met his dad, saying that his dad was way stronger than what Mark was at that age, and then tells Mark that he was executed, which we obviously know that's not true. And before Conquest could finish him off, Oliver hits him with the weakest attack I could possibly imagine. I'm dead, bro, listen to this. Who the hell was that supposed to hurt? Someone please let me know. And so he thanks him for coming back so he could split open his body and eat his heart out. Mark didn't take that threat lightly, telling Conquest to
Get away from him.
And then Conquest hits him with probably the most disrespectful shit I done ever seen in this show. Oh no. And then this man proceeds to slide into frame, punching the shit out this 1-year-old child. And when he gets up, he coughs up a whole lot of blood. So Conquest picks him up by his head, proceeding to try and rip this man in half while Oliver is screaming for his life. And I ain't gonna lie, there's a reason I haven't been showing much of this scene. Shit went on for a good minute before Mark finally breaks out his rubble and saves his brother. As Mark is dragging him through the sky, Conquest starts complimenting his speed before stopping in mid-air. Really just goes to show the strength difference between the two, but he proceeds to grab his head and punch that shit with all his might. But Mark tanked that, pushing Conquest down to the floor. Honestly, that might have been the only damage conflicting shot that Mark has done. For now. Anyways, we see Oliver on the verge of death before Cecil and his men pop out saving him. He looks over to his side and sees Mark getting his shit kicked in. So he goes over to the hospital to tell Eve what's going on. And when she tells her to get on that field ASAP, sliding back over to the fight, we see Mark getting dragged through the goddamn ocean until finally they reach a random city. I don't know, probably Brazil. And I am not gonna show the following scene, but I'm gonna just commentate as it happens. Alright, first group is dead, second group is dead. Continues to fly through the buildings. Oh, trucks flying. God damn, that's about 4 buildings I just dropped. Oh no, it's the replication of the train scene. Oh god, oh no. Damn, that boy done lost his arm. And so following suit, Mark is getting dragged up the field until he breaks free, socking Conquest across his face. And doing more damage, we see a wall appear out of nowhere, and to no one's surprise, it's Adam Eve. And Mark was terrified. Last thing he wants to see is his girl dying, which is why he's gonna try really hard to make sure she's okay. Which is when he charges in, and not even 5 seconds later, he gets his knee broken. God damn. Eve goes in to help him, trapping Conquest in a bubble, but obviously he wasn't gonna let that happen, so he broke free. And with the broken shards of the shield, she turns into a Power Ranger. Yeah, fast. So Conquest charges in trying to take her ass out, but come to find out, she changed the density of the air surrounding them. Where was this ability throughout the whole show? No, I don't know. But Eve starts pulling in work. She makes a hammer with some spice on it and starts beating Conquest to the ground. That wasn't until he caught the last hammer and broke it. So at this point, she was breathing hard, already tired, in which Conquest actually points it out. So he charges at her with full force, breaking through all her walls. And so she uses the broken shards from the walls to cover his face, cutting off his oxygen, and then... I just wish she had that same energy when Nolan was attacking. And so she just starts throwing an entourage of attacks, hitting lick after lick until Conquest started getting a hang of her motion. So he starts to bomb and weave her attacks, but even then she was still holding her own. That wasn't until Conquest blocked her final attack and started breaking off her armor, piece by piece. Then proceeds to headbutt her mask off. I don't know how she survived that shit. So after he breaks the final pieces, he just looks at her menacingly until he charges in, and I can't show this on YouTube. And then he proceeds to... And so he pushes her off and she starts falling slowly. And Mark finally chose to come to the rescue. He looks at his girl's busted face talking about something. Please, I can't live without you. And so he slowly starts coming down and starts to look down in disbelief. He couldn't believe what had just happened to his girl. And so he proceeds to do one of the most bitch-made things I done ever seen. He starts screaming for Cecil's help.
Hey, y'all, come look at this. It's Cecil! I need you, Cecil!
And so in absolute rage, Mark charges in, clashing with Conquest and breaks his hand. Make that both of their hands, because that looked like it hurt. And as Mark peeps that his bone is popping out his wrist, and as Conquest starts to talk his shit, Mark socks him in his jaw and starts beating on him with one working arm and one working leg. But that only lasted for about 4 seconds till Conquest weaves and hugs him like a super senior. And he says to Mark that getting mad
doesn't make you stronger.
and Mark don't give 2 damns about what he's talking about, biting a piece of his neck off. So in rage, Conquest tosses him off, and Mark spits the meat out and they clash, going back and forth, sending shockwaves throughout the entire area, in which one of those shockwaves must have woken up Eve, because she starts to get on her goddess timing. Meanwhile, Mark is actively, angrily punching Conquest in his shit. That wasn't until he got distracted by Eve's aura, in which he gets grabbed, kneed, and slammed on the floor. And then this man Conquest starts getting on his freaky timing, talking about some.
Your little pussy belongs to me. And you're gonna learn to do what I fucking tell you to.
Anyways, after finishing his freaky ass dialogue, he proceeds to choke Mark even harder, in which Mark is really about to die here, but that was until and Eve hits this man Conquest with a matter-altering beam, completely shredding not only this man's costume, but his entire skin. I'm talking, you can see his bare, and I mean bare, ass cheeks. So Mark starts crawling to a collapsed Eve. That wasn't until this monster, absolute monstrosity of a nigga Conquest stands up. And then he's like,
This time I'll make sure she's dead.
and Mark was tired of these threats, beating on him while he's down, but that wasn't until Conquest caught one of the final punches and broke his other hand. But hey, it's not like he was using his brain for much anyways. So he repeatedly headbutts him till he believes that Conquest is dead. And that, folks, is the end of Invincible versus Conquest. This really was cinema.